Hey guys, Dov here, back with another unit highlight. Today I've got a unit that has been perplexing me a little bit lately, I'm not gonna lie. Spider Rider Archers. I was just about to call them best in class, but I'm not 100% decided yet. You guys will let me know and we can kind of have this discussion as a community. But of course, as you guys know, I've been talking a lot about this recently. The change to contact effect on missiles, including poison missiles on these guys, has radically altered the power level of certain units and factions especially, but these guys, being that they are pretty inaccurate, would have a very large tendency to hit your own troops, and thus, as a result, these guys are, they were already pretty good, but now they might be the best skirmish cav in the game. Again, I'm not 100% decided on that, which is why this is probably not going to be entitled best in class. But we've got 4 of them here. This is Hadriz from a recent tournament. I believe this was the ECL. This was his Grimgore run, of course. He's got Grimgore against Norsca, front line of Savage Orc Biggins. We've got also Savage Orc Airboys, Rusty Airs, and some more Melee Spider Riders. Melee Spider Riders, probably the best light cav in the game, Melee light cav, but their sort of uniqueness has, or I guess true power level maybe, I don't know, not that it's been lessened, but the fact that before they were the only reliable way to, only poison your enemies and not poison friends. If you took Spider Rider Archers to support like a mobile engagement or something, or a monster engagement, they would very often just poison everything, right? And that's not really what you want at the end of the day. Here, though, the Spider Rider Archers show off one of their strengths. They have 22 melee defense, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for skirmish cavalry, combined with the poison, is very strong, considering the weapon strength of these Warhounds gets significantly debuffed. Their vigor is going down quicker because of the poison as well. They're slowed, and, Spider Rider Archers, good enough attack, low enough defense on these guys that they can fight back and actually win against those hounds, especially in a 2-on-1 there. So that is one of the primary benefits of the Spider Rider Archers, is that they're poison both melee and range, right? Which is not the same for something like Blade Riders with Hagbane tips, for example, right? They only deal poison at range. Here you can see this, the Norskins pushing up. They got some Skin Wolves, Wolfric on a Mammoth, a Fire Famir. We got some Miststalkers in the front line, some Berserkers as well. Nice balanced Norskin build in general. Mainline engagement gets underway. Gonna kind of keep the Spider Riders in the background so you can see them operating in the flanks as we get into some Berserkers charging here. Looks like a nice burning head from Norsca as well. Gonna rip through some of these Savage Orcs. Beautiful damage there. That's insane value. Even if you do clip your own Marauders there a little bit. Likewise, Grimgore eats a Hunter of Champions charge to the face. He gets very lucky in that I think he actually blocked that attack. The You're Next certainly factoring into that. They need Savin also debuffing, so Wolfric is pretty heavily debuffed here. It's maybe not going to be the best fight for him, but you can see the Norskins are pushing pretty aggressively, having, with that Burning Head, broken a number of units here. We've got Berserkers and Marauders up in the front line. Spider Riders kind of get in close. They're trying to shoot at the Mammoth, which, because it's such a big target, they will be able to hit. The reason I'm hesitant, and we'll go back to these guys for just a minute, the reason I'm hesitant to call them the best missile cav in the game is that their damage output is actually really low, in comparison especially to something like Pistoliers or Marauder Horsemen, any kind of Marauder Horsemen. So, I don't know, I think maybe because of the contact effect and their melee stats, and look at this as well, with WA, they're up to 39 melee attack, 33 weapon strength, which is not bad at all considering the poison. They can actually charge in and fight like low-tier skirmishers or low-tier infantry, other light cavalry very effectively with that WA timing push. Now that it's worn off, though, they're just kind of falling back, acting as a mobile skirmish force, continuously applying that poison, which is always going to be debuffing. You can see Wolfric's already tired, right? Whereas I guess a lot of the Greenskins troops are tired too. The vigor effect isn't fully told yet, but vigor is pretty important, and of course poison does reduce vigor, right? No, it actually doesn't. Interesting. I totally thought it did. That's weird. I'll learn something today as well. I guess just weapon damage. That in and of itself, though, is pretty good. Weapon damage and missile damage, and just in general, dragging your opponent down. The debuff to speed as well, of course, is nice to control, especially a fast faction like Norsca. Continuously applying that to the Skin Wolves, who, especially unarmored Skin Wolves, don't have a whole lot of armor. You can keep up the pressure there and just keep this very effective mobile skirmish line. Balance power still pretty close at this point, as, we've still got these Miststalkers online. Famir's relatively healthy. Got some more skin wolves over here, and these berserkers also quite healthy as well. Some marauder horsemen in the back line. Getting hit by these wolf riders, unfortunately, looks like they've been zoned out pretty effectively by Hadris there. The poor Gobbo Big Boss gets absolutely stomped. It doesn't take much time. He's a good fighter, but he doesn't have a lot of HP, so a couple of bad RNG rolls from Wulfric just absolutely domes him. Grimgor, though, going to mix it up with the Famir here, and this is a bad day for Balefiend, at least until Wulfric comes running through with the Hunter of Champions especially. Not going to be the best for Grimgor. He will probably sit and fight back, but keep in mind, all the meantime, these Spider Riders are just peppering in, doing some nice DPS, and again, applying that poison. You can see his speed down to 5 with the Mither combined, right? So even if he wanted to get away from Grimgor, which he probably does at this point, he can't really, and the best he can hope for is that the Famir will maybe bully him a little bit, which looks like probably happening. Another nice burning head. Gets across, the Spider Riders, does some damage to them, pretty good damage, but again, even as these Skin Wolves compromise them, they'll fire in, poison the Skin Wolves, and slow them down. That 75 speed goes down to 57 there, and they can easily stay out in front and keep doing great DPS. Even the armored Skin Wolves at 70 armor still are going to take more than they're comfortable with of that damage. Oh man, Grimgor fighting the fighting the Famir, just wrecks him actually. Meanwhile, the Troll Hag is trying to fight. Oh, actually, she downs the Mammoth with the help of the 8-peak loons. Also applying some poison there, and that is a wrap for the Greenskins. So, pretty fun stuff. This is a hard matchup for Norsca, I will fully admit that. But, I mean, this is just kind of a classic case. Really showcases the strength of Spider Riders, and they can be used in that hybrid melee missile cav role in a multitude of different matchups, right? I'm a big fan of that hybrid utility role. Again, the missile damage is not amazing, but now you can use it to keep poison applied consistently without having to be in melee, especially with certain units that are really hard hitting, like the Mammoth, for example, like these Skin Wolves. You can kind of kite them around, control their positioning very well, and then get the engagements that you want to, not to end up taking too much damage there. Hadris did a really good job with that. Well played to both players, honestly. Good game. It's a tough one for Norsca for sure, but just kind of finishing up here a discussion. I want to have a bit of a, maybe not extended discussion here, but just to kind of get your guys' thoughts and to express my own. Spider Rider Archers, 450 points is pretty nice, and chevroning them, let's see, like, I used to do this a lot, and I haven't been as much anymore. I think it's still probably pretty good in certain matchups to get chevroned Spider Riders. The melee ones go all the way up to 38 melee defense, and with 60 leadership, they're going to stick around a little bit longer as well. And then, of course, you can give them plenty of attack buffs. They've got a decent charge bonus at 22. For this cost class, I mean, they're definitely not shock cavalry by any means like Dark Riders, but it's still pretty solid, especially the poison. And 45 armor is also a little bit better than a lot of units in this class. It's kind of nice. And the missile variant as well. I don't know that it's necessarily worth it to juice up the chevrons all the way, but they do go all the way up to 29 melee defense. For that much cost, though, really one of their biggest benefits, kind of like Wolf Rider Archers, is that they're cheap, right? You can bring these guys and very cheaply get some damage. Not a ton of damage, but some damage, and especially the poison. Again, that's the biggest thing. The Vanguard is also very nice. They have Strider as well, which means they're going to operate very efficiently on heavily forested maps or up or down hills. One of the things a lot of people don't realize is that going up and down hills is pretty impactful, right? It impacts a few things like charge bonus and missile damage especially, but with Strider, you'll ignore those penalties. So these guys can, for example, charge uphill or even fire uphill without as much issue as other units, which is a huge benefit to them. Not to mention running through the trees, being able to screen out other non-Strider cavalry, especially if you're like skirmishing, I don't know, something like Marauder Horsemen that's pretty fast. Just as kind of a comparison. Regular Marauder Horsemen, their melee stats are, let's see, yeah, a lot less melee attack, but even a little bit, yeah, more melee attack, I should say, on the Horsemen, less melee defense. Weapon strength is pretty close, honestly. That kind of surprised me. I thought it would be a little more different. Marauder Horsemen do have plus 10 charge bonus, which is pretty massive. They've got a little bit less ammo, but it does more damage, quite a bit more damage. Range is shorter as well. The bows at 100 range are sit in a pretty good sweet spot, kind of like the Wolf Rider archers, in that you outrange like Marauder Horsemen, you outrange Pistoliers, and a few other factions, Skirmish Cav, anything that's basically like not a human or elf bow, you'll outrange, and you can use that to your advantage to kite things like Marauder Horsemen and, again, Pistoliers, which are two, I would say, that are in contention of the best in class. So maybe just by that, because it, you know, if it's a competition between these three, and then, you know, typically I don't like to use head-to-head matchups as comparisons as to who's the best, but when you have three units that all have kind of their own benefits, you know, Pistoliers, as much as I would like to say it, I just don't know that I can fully make the argument for them to be best in class, because their melee stats are so inferior to, I mean, their missile DPS is the best, especially and the most cost-effective, but Marauder Horsemen actually have a little bit more ammo, right, and their melee stats being a little bit better, especially having that 16 charge bonus may not seem like a lot, but for a Skirmish Cav in this price range, it's actually pretty good, right? So, I don't know. What do you guys think? With the Spider Riders having the melee and poison and still pretty decent stats, as well as having access to, you know, infinite melee attack buffs basically between Wurzag and various lords and Wa and everything, spells and so on. Is it Marauder Horsemen just because they're kind of the best all around without needing any support? Is it Pistoliers because they do the most missile damage and because I'm Dov Plays and they're Pistoliers? Let me know in the comments down below. For Spider Riders, though, you will be seeing these guys more often than you used to, certainly. Like I said, they were good units before, but they did have a tendency to poison your own units. Now, that will not be the case. Definitely a lot more useful. That goes for Goblin Archers as well. I know I've already talked about them kind of a little bit, but yeah, Spider Riders, probably the best light cavalry in the game. Maybe. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.